Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the GSA 2025 virtual info session, Meet the Faculty for Instrumental Music. My name is Natalie. I work as the GSA program coordinator. I do want to get to know just a little bit about who is attending the webinar today. So as everybody's getting logged in, if you could drop your name and the county that you're from in the chat. Get to know who is attending our webinar tonight. Let's see. Hi, Dana from Jefferson. Hi, Dixie from McCracken. Who else do we have? Kieran from Oldham. Hi, Benjamin from Franklin County. I have Marley from Woodford County. Cole from Campbell County. Ava from Jefferson. Hi, Rhett from Mulder County. I've got Christy, who's a parent from Boone County. Welcome. Sydney from Clark County. Hi, Lillian from Ohio County. Hi, Lindsay from Floyd. Taylor from Jefferson. Hey, Marty from Fayette County. And Kaylee and Parker from Simpson County. Rio's also from Fayette County and Charlie from Boone County. All righty. So we've got plenty of Kentucky counties represented here. Cool. Well, welcome again to tonight's webinar. Let me go ahead. Can everybody see my screen that I'm sharing? If you can, go ahead and throw a thumbs up in the chat. If you can't, let me know. But you should see a little perfect. You should see a virtual info session, Meet the Faculty. So I got a thumbs up from Benjamin. So Benjamin, I'm going to take your word for it that you can see my screen. Awesome. Perfect. You all rock. All righty. Well, welcome. We're going to be meeting an instrumental music faculty member today, Dr. Rich Byrd, and we're going to get to chat with him about what GSA looks for in the application for the instrumental music program. So Rich, can you go ahead and introduce yourself, your role at GSA, and what you do outside the program?
Hi. Yes, Natalie. My name is Rich Byrd, and I am the Dean of Faculty, and I teach the instrumental music program. I'm actually the coordinator of that program, and I do all things brass related.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Rich. What do you do outside the program? Can you tell the people?
Sorry?
What do you do outside GSA?
Outside of GSA, actually, I'm a faculty member teaching music theory at the Eastern Kentucky University. I've been doing, this is my 18th year doing that. And outside of that, I'm a freelance trumpet player. I've been playing for the past several decades around the central Kentucky area. And so if you want to check out what I'm doing and see what I have, you can check out my website, richbirdmusic.com. How do you like that for plug?
Love a plug. We love a plug. Awesome. Thanks so much, Rich. Alrighty, so just some housekeeping things to get out of the way before we get started. There will be time for Q&A at the end of today's presentation, so feel free to use the Q&A feature in Zoom to ask your questions. I do ask that you put all your questions in that Q&A section, not the chat. Sometimes they'll get lost in the chat, and so it's a lot easier if they're in that Q&A section. If you're joining us on Zoom, you should also receive a survey at the end of today's session. We ask that you please take that. It's super short, should only take you a couple minutes, and it helps us assess how well we're recruiting and how far-reaching our recruitment efforts are. So please take a moment to fill that out. And if you aren't already aware, today's session is part of a larger series of virtual info sessions that GSA is hosting throughout the fall for applicants, parents, and educators. We do hope that you'll take advantage of these resources to learn more, ask questions, and connect with the GSA team. We have already hosted 2 GSA 101 presentations. Recordings of those are posted on our website. We are also in the midst of our art form specific webinars, and all of these specific dates, times, and registration information can be found on our website. That's www.kentuckygsa.org, and Kentucky is all spelled out, not abbreviated. So you do still have 2 more opportunities to attend a full GSA 101 webinar that's going to be on November 6th and December the 9th. And in terms of art form specific webinars, if we have anybody that is interested in multiple art forms, then you can catch the art form specific webinars for the other art forms. We've already done musical theater. We're here in the instrumental music one, but the other 7 will be offered in the next month or so. Oh, and I totally forgot. I am going to launch a super quick poll. This is also going to take you like less than a minute. If you will take this poll, just so I can get to know a little bit more about not only like your name and your county, but also kind of who you are and why you're in for the webinar. It's only 3 questions, should be super quick. Well, you all are fast. Perfect. We'll give it just another minute for the last of us to go ahead and get those submitted. Beautiful. That's the last of them. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. You all did that in under a minute. Iconic. Alrighty. So, which best describes you? So looks like we have mostly high school students in the 10th or 11th grade, which is great because that means that you're eligible to apply for GSA. And we also have the other half is parents and guardians of a potential applicant. So parents, guardians, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for supporting your student in this GSA process. We're so excited to have you and the students that are here today. Looks like everybody is interested in instrumental music. Not surprising. But then we also have a couple who are interested in vocal music. So that's exciting. A couple of multidisciplinary artists here. So you'll want to join the vocal music webinar on November the 7th. That'll be with Dr. Brittany Benningfield. She is awesome. And then let's see, we've got a pretty even split of who has or hasn't attended a GSA 101 webinar. So again, for those who haven't attended one quite just yet, you still have 2 opportunities to catch one live as it happens. We'll also do Q&As during those. And for those who can't make November 6th or December the 9th, all of the webinars that we're hosting are recorded and are posted on the website within a couple of days after they're finished. So great job on that poll, everybody. Like I said, you all were quick. All righty, so we're going to continue on here. Just a reminder that these info sessions are not the only way to get information about the GSA application process. You can contact GSA with any kind of question at the GSA helpline. The phone number for that is 502-566-5192, or you can send us an email anytime at gsainfo@kentuckyperformingarts with an s.org. And Kentucky, again, just like the website, all spelled out, not abbreviated. Fun fact that I like to share with everybody, I am the team member who monitors both the GSA info and the GSA helpline. So when you call GSA, there's not a scary adult who's waiting to judge you. It is me or one of my team members who is there to help. It is our pleasure and our job to help you out. So please, please, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to the program. You can also follow us on social media as well. You can search our program name to find us on Facebook, and our handle on Instagram is @KYGSA. So we're going to quickly review some information about the GSA summer program itself. So what is GSA? GSA is a 3-week residential summer program that takes place on a college campus. Students attend GSA for one of 9 art forms, and the program is completely tuition free. Students are immersed in an intense, challenging, and exhilarating learning environment. And while each student focuses on the one art form they're attending GSA for, interdisciplinary collaboration is a major component of the program. So students are also exposed to and engage with art forms other than their own. We are expecting to take approximately 512 students across 2 sessions. That expansion happened a couple years ago, thanks to supplemental funding provided by the Kentucky Department of Education. So we talked about our art forms. We're going to take a look at what they are now. So they are creative writing, dance, design, drama, film and photography, instrumental music, musical theater, visual art, and vocal music. Each student can apply in up to 2 art forms, but you can only attend for one. You can only attend GSA one time for one art form. I do want to note in this instrumental music presentation, you can apply for 2 different instruments, but that does count as your 2 art form applications. So for example, if you wanted to apply for trumpet and piano, you can do that, but you couldn't apply for trumpet and piano and design. That would put you over the number of applications. And while we are thrilled to speak with you today about the GSA Instrumental Music Program, and we're confident that today's session will be helpful, remember that today's information session will not be 100% comprehensive, and there are some other very important resources that you should utilize to learn more about the program and the application. All of those resources are available on our website. Again, that's www.kentuckygsa.org. You'll want to be sure to read the applicant guide for your art form of interest. So we're going to review the applicant guide as part of today's conversation. There will be some parts that we kind of skim over, especially the instrumental music applicant guide, since it's broken down by instrument type or family. But you should definitely take some time to really carefully review that document yourself. It will walk you through the entire process from start to finish. So make sure that you block out time for that as you're preparing for your application. You're also ahead of the curve by attending an art form specific webinar, and hopefully this will equip you to start preparing and uploading your materials nice and early. So a couple items of note here, students must currently be a sophomore or junior in high school to apply. That is what applies to most of you. If we've had anybody come in since we ran the poll that is a freshman, feel free to stick around. You will still get ahead of the curve on preparing for your GSA application. We will not ask you for GPA, SAT, ACT scores during the process. Those can often be used as markers of student success, but it's not something that we utilize in our decision-making process. You can apply for up to 2 art forms, as I mentioned earlier, and this is an important note. There is a $35 application fee that is collected just before submitting your application. If you do choose to apply in 2 art forms, there will be an additional $15 fee for that second art form application. So it's $50 total to apply for 2 art forms. However, students who are on free or reduced lunch can have this fee completely waived just by the click of a button in the application, no questions asked. So we don't require any kind of special documentation to waive that fee. If you qualify for free or reduced lunch, you can have that application fee waived. And just a little bit more about the application timeline before we hop into the instrumental music applicant guide. So the GSA 2025 application is due by end of day January the 12th. Note that is 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. It is 10:59 p.m. Central. So if you are in the Central time zone, you have to have your materials submitted by 10:59 p.m. on January the 12th. So please, if you're unsure, double check which time zone you live in. Note that this is also a Sunday, and the GSA office is not staffed on the weekends. So that means that Friday, January the 10th is going to be the last day for you to call or email us with any questions about the application before it's due. If you don't hear anything else from this webinar tonight, I ask that you hear me when I say this. Do not wait until the last minute to upload your application if at all possible. The application system is going to inherently run slowly as more people log on and try to submit their application in the final day or two. So do yourself a favor and get your application in nice and early. We recommend completing your application at least 1 week before the January 12th deadline. It will be such a weight off your shoulders if you're not sitting there biting your nails at 11:48 p.m. on January the 12th, hoping that your stuff is going to upload in time. Please, please, please get it done early if you can. All students will learn if they've advanced to the second and final round of adjudication on February the 14th, which is about 1 month before those final round auditions and reviews take place. Those will take place on March 21st and 22nd. They are hybrid, which means that some art forms will host auditions and reviews in person at the University of Kentucky, and other art forms will be held online via Zoom. Full details for each art form's final round format can be found in the applicant guide. We will announce the GSA class of 2025, as well as any alternates that have been placed on the wait list. That will be on Friday, April the 11th. So that is when you will learn if you have been accepted to GSA or placed on the alternate list. And finally, the dates for GSA's 2025 summer sessions are session 1 will run from June 8th through June 28th. And session 2 will run from July 6th through July the 26th. So all students will attend one of the two sessions. They're assigned which session they attend, although you are, if you're accepted as a finalist, if you're named as a finalist, you do get the opportunity to request placement in a specific session. We do try to honor that whenever possible. And they'll learn which session that they have been accepted to through the class announcement. And just another note, though most art forms will take place in both sessions, design will only be held in session 1, while dance will only be held in session 2. So instrumental music will be held in both sessions, but if you're also interested in applying for either dance or design, just note that design is only in session 1, the June session, and dance is only in session 2, the July session. Alrighty. So that is the end of our just general GSA information. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to pause sharing my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and get the GSA Instrumental Music Applicant Guide pulled up. While I'm doing that, Rich, would you mind just kind of going through a general idea of what the instrumental music program is like at GSA?
Sure. So at GSA for instrumental music, our primary focus is chamber music. Many camp programs during the summer have a large ensemble, such as a band or concert band or orchestra, and we do not do that. We do all chamber music. The largest ensemble we would have might be a jazz band, which is still technically a chamber music ensemble because that means one person on a part. So we're looking at trios, quartets, quintets, maybe small woodwind choirs, string choirs, or brass choirs like that. But it's all chamber music, and that's what we focus on. And so the music is given to the students ahead of time. Even part of our audition music is kind of gives us an idea what they can do with chamber music because some of the prepared pieces are actually taken from some of the literature and repertoire that we do during the summers or have done in the past. So, but anyway, the focus of instrumental music as far as the performing aspect is chamber music. And of course, we have a whole wide variety of other things that activities that are going to be in classes that will be involved. Students will be involved in as well, including music theory and music history and all kinds of seminars about college choices and auditions and that type of thing. And then we have guest artists coming in, we have adjunct faculty, and then there's all kinds of things that we do with other art forms. But anyway, that sort of gives you a snapshot of that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rich. Alrighty, so I'm going to share my screen. And can everybody see what I'm seeing? I have the GSA website pulled up. I'm just going to show everybody how to access the applicant guide. Are we seeing what I'm seeing? Perfect. Alrighty, so this is how you'll access the applicant guide. I always just like to walk people through this because sometimes it can get confusing. So you'll want to go to www.kentuckygsa.org. This is the GSA homepage. When you're there, you're going to click Apply for GSA 2025, and you'll click this blue button right here. That will take you to this web page, the 2025 Applicant Guides and Application Portal. This is a great one-stop shop for anything GSA 2025 application. For the applicant guide specifically, you'll want to scroll down to where the big title says Applicant Guides. Shocker, I know. And you'll want to click here on this link here to review all of the applicant guides, which will take you to this web page. The top of this is going to look like this. Thank you for your interest in the GSA 2025 summer program. You will want to scroll down and find the instrumental music applicant guide, which is right here. and that will open up this lovely, lovely document. So this is the applicant guide. This is going to walk you through the entire process of applying for instrumental music from start to finish. So you'll have this lovely cover page here. We'll go through some of the information here, but again, remember this will not be 100% comprehensive, so be sure that you are reviewing this in your own time as well. We have a table of contents here with a couple photos of our lovely students of the past. And here is a program description. It's very similar to what Dr. Byrd just went through for you there, as well as a link to view some program photos from GSA 2024. Alrighty, so we're going to get started with the preliminary round application requirements. Again, this is the first round that is due on January the 12th. You will submit all of these materials through the online platform Accepted. It is made up of a couple different components. So the first component of the preliminary round application requirements are the recommendation forms. We do require that each student submit 2 recommenders, and the recommendation form will be sent directly to those recommenders via the Accepted platform. Please note that previously we did require 1 teacher and 1 school administrator, like a counselor, vice principal, principal, etc., to be your recommenders. We no longer have that requirement. So we allow students to choose 2 people. If you have 2 people in your life that can speak to your artistic skill, talent, ability, potential, etc., great, go ahead and list them. If you don't have 2 people who can do so, then go ahead and list somebody who can speak to your character, your accountability, your work ethic. Think, teachers that are in school, your private teacher, mentors, school administrators like a guidance counselor if they know you well. You could also, if you play on a sports team, you could list your coach. If you work a job, you could list your supervisor. So they will be sent a link to the recommendation form. It will only take them about 10 minutes at the most. And before you submit their information, we definitely encourage you to inform them that you're applying for GSA and would like to list them as a recommender. It is always great to ask before you list somebody as a recommender, so that way they aren't taken by surprise and they're like, what is this strange email? You should also confirm which email address you should list for them. Double check that you have the correct spelling. We get a lot of misspelled emails each year, and it does complicate the process just a little bit. It's fixable, but it takes some time to get that fixed. So please double check the spelling. You'll want to submit your recommenders information as soon as possible, so they have plenty of time to complete the forms prior to January 12th. That is due the same day as the application. And after you've submitted their information, definitely you'll want to follow up with them, tell them to check their email, and then ask them to confirm with you when they've submitted the form. And then make sure you tell them thank you. So you can also check in with them if they haven't submitted it quite just yet. If they haven't told you that they have, feel free to check in with them. Hey, I submitted this. Have you gotten the email? Do you need anything for me to be able to get that done? Just some additional information. No letters of recommendation, formal written letters of recommendation are needed. Applicants' parents or immediate family may not fill out the recommendation forms. Your mom thinks that you are great. However, your mom cannot serve as a GSA recommender, unfortunately. So she'll have plenty of opportunity to brag on you throughout time, just not in this process. And then if you are applying for 2 art forms and you're using the same recommenders, they will have to complete 2 separate forms, even if their answers are identical. So if you're applying for 2 different instruments or 2 different art forms, just note that they will have to fill that form out twice. It's totally fine if they just copy and paste their answers. It's not that big of a deal. So, Rich, do you have anything to add about recommenders or how you use this during the adjudication process?
We do look at these. Definitely, we read both of them. I would definitely advise everyone to make sure that the person you get or the people you get to write letters for you are people that know you well, not just see your work on a paper and just kind of read that. Sometimes we get people who they know you by name, but they don't know you really well. They don't know you as an artist. They haven't really heard you play or anything, but they know your grades and they maybe could speak to your character, which is good and that's important. but they may not really be able to say they actually saw you. They just kind of read the resume and say, well, they were first in all state, and they did this and that and that. And that's nice, but we already know that by reading stuff you send us. So if you can find someone who really knows you well in the sense of your art form, that would be better for us.
That's a really great point too, Rich. Yeah, someone who really knows you. Alrighty. So next up, you will submit these next two requirements are kind of in the same vein, just a little bit different. You'll submit a personal short essay that is a 250 word max. You'll be answering the question, how can or why should the art form you're applying in be of importance to your community or society as a whole? You'll also submit what's called a personal question video, which is about 90 seconds max, and you'll be answering a question, why is the art form you're applying in important to you? What are your goals for yourself as an artist in this art form? So the biggest thing about the personal short essay and the personal question videos is to be open, honest, and authentic in your response. We list it every single year, and it is important. You're giving the adjudicators a peek into how you think about your art as it applies to yourself and as it applies to the wider world. So these are opportunities for them to get to know you and how you think about art. Um, the essay does not have to be the next, Pulitzer Prize winner. The video does not need to be Spielberg quality cinema. It it really can be as simple as setting your phone up and making sure that they can see you and speaking honestly and authentically. Make sure you're putting your best foot forward, as with the entire application. But the biggest thing is you being genuine and honest in your response. So, Rich, do you have anything to add about these two elements of the application?
Sure. Of course, I feel like I'd just be echoing what you said, but the honest and authentic is very, very important. And of course, you guys know that if you're why we know that this is not a speech contest competition or anything like that. If you stutter or anything, because like I just did, and you're not happy with it, you can just redo the video.
Mhm.
So if you think, oh, I kind of botched some few things up and I sound kind of dumb and I don't feel like that's not my best foot forward, then just retake it and just
Mhm.
re-record it. But the other thing I want to say is, um, I could just reiterate what she said, and that might seem impactful, but what happens is, um, students will eventually talk to their parents or their teachers about it, and they'll say, yeah, I know what they said, but you really should make this really, really polished, because it's nice that you're speaking honestly about yourself, but let's make this really, really professional and really polished. And so they kind of override what we just said. And if I can be frank, I'm one of the judges. Well, I'm listening to your reading your essay and listening to you speak. And we and the other judges have talked about this at great length. We really don't want to see a polished prose piece of work. It's okay if you actually put some time and effort into it. I think it's very admirable that you spend some time and compose your thoughts and maybe practice it, rehearse it, but it's not a speech competition. So you don't have to worry about if you mispronounce something accidentally or something like that. It's not going to cost you. We just want to see the real you. So of course, sure, think about it, compose your thoughts, practice a few times because maybe you don't want to stutter every other word. But we really, 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 I can't emphasize that enough, really want to see what you're about, as opposed to some slick essay that you and maybe your parents or some teacher helps you write that sounds very artistic, but it doesn't really tell us anything about you, who you are. And so it would leave us kind of empty and wanting, like, well, this doesn't give us much information. So you've kind of lost an opportunity to share something about yourself rather than just try and impress us with how well you can write.
Those are really, really great points, Rich. Absolutely. Alrighty. So moving on, this is more the artistic meat of the preliminary round application. You will be asked some art form specific questions. These do vary from art form to art form. For instrumental music, I think it's mostly like, do you study with a private teacher, and, things about your process for learning new music, things like that. There are no right or wrong answers for these questions, nor are we looking for, a student who answers one way over another. We ask these questions to better understand understand you in the fullest context possible. So these questions are often about like your level of access to training, classes, or lessons. So those will be asked in the actual accepted application portal. So you'll get access to those once you have submitted your recommenders info. So now moving on to your videos. These are going to be where you are actually playing and submitting yourself playing your instrument. So all applicants across all instruments must submit a scales or rudiments video and a prepared solo video. Percussionists do have to provide 2 of each. We will touch on that below. Depending on your instrument, your video submissions will look a little bit different. These are kind of overall guidelines. So you also must upload a legible PDF copy of the solo that you're playing. You and your hands need to be visible the entire time. If you're using a music stand, position it so your body is obstructed as little as possible. Make sure you're recording the video in one take. No edits, no splicing, no stops. Transitions between your scales should be swift. Avoid using metronomes or tuners or any kind of human or technological assistance. That's not allowed. No accompaniment, live, recorded, or electronic is allowed. Don't wear your headphones or earbuds. That is also not allowed in these. Recommend that you record your video in an interior space that's free from interruptions, background noise, etc. Let's see. For all scales videos, play scales in eighth notes at the minimum tempo of 120 beats per minute to the quarter note. Play a different scale degree each note. Don't play 2 eighth notes per pitch. Use the rhythm below as a guide and be sure to review specific scale instructions for your instruments. Especially pianists, note that there is a rhythm exception in piano. It is described on the next page. So Rich, before we get into the instrument by instrument family kind of breakdown, any thoughts about these overall requirements or recommendations?
Yes, I do want to start out by saying when it says no or not allowed, you really, really need to pay attention to that, because what happens is students are actually immediately or automatically disqualified. Not just for not paying attention or following the directions, but that we specifically asked not to do these things. So we have had students who splice and edit every scale in one video. And so it says no edits, it means no edits, no splicing. I know it says stops, but that means just, you know, obviously you can stop in between the scale, but just no cutting and chopping and splicing and editing. And then no human technological assistance. So metronomes and tuners are not allowed in the distance, in front of you, in another room, in your headphones, anything, because we need to see how well you can play in time without the assistance of that. You certainly should train and practice all through your practice session up until you record this. But then when you're actually recording it, you should not actually use those. So hopefully you will use those for a while and then be able to do it without it. And then when we say no accompaniment, we need no accompaniment, nothing live, no piano, nothing recorded, nothing electronic. Because again, we've had students who decided, well, I had a tape last year, I'll just submit that. It was me and somebody was playing piano with me. And it's probably not that big a deal because I sound great. But that's a problem because you got to accompaniment. And so that kind of is an unfair advantage that you have that everyone else is not doing. So in order to, we're not trying to play hardball here, but in order to be fair to everyone who's following the rules, that's why you could get disqualified. You probably would get disqualified for something like that. And it's not like we'd ask you, hey, can you resubmit it because you didn't read something. You need to make sure you read all the criteria here and follow this as well. The other thing is about the scales is make sure these are exceptional. These need to be right. These need to be accurate. These need to be good. And the beauty thing about this, since it's not a live audition, is if you don't like what you did, you can re-record it. So obviously you should not do this the night before, because that's the last minute, and you know what happens the last minute. You might get tired, and every time you try and do better and better and better, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And then you're exhausted and out of time and you have to submit it. So give yourself plenty of time to learn these and start recording them and see what it's like. See, maybe you might get lucky. Maybe you get a really, really good recording early on, but start practicing these early. And then when you record them, like I said, you can give yourself multiple opportunities to get the exact get recording that you want, because you want to submit these things really, really well. You don't want to submit something that's okay or mostly pretty good, because you're competing against other people and you have that opportunity all the time that you choose to practice this and record this accurately.
Perfect. Thank you, Rich. Alrighty, so we're gonna make brief pit stops at all of the instrument families. Again, make sure you're reviewing this on your own before you're submitting your final application. For woodwinds and brass, you can see that they have listed out, we've listed out the scales that you should play for brass and for woodwinds. Make sure they're ascending and descending, you play them by memory. There's a note about the timing that you'll wanna make sure. Make sure you're playing the scales in 2 octaves unless the range of your instrument limits a scale to 1 octave. So for example, saxophones may play their G scale in 1 octave. Trumpets may play their D, E flat, and F scales in 1 octave as well. You should play them in a tongued legato style. And if you play a transposing instrument, make sure you play the required scales in your keys, not concert pitch. Let's see. And for the personal solo video for woodwinds and brass, all the personal solo videos should be about 3 to 5 minutes. Make sure you're selecting and playing a solo of your choice. Make sure you're uploading a legible PDF copy and announce your name and the piece you play it by stating both the composer and the title before you start playing. Alrighty, for strings and guitar, very similar. Here are the scales that you are required to play. All in 2 octaves except for double bass can drop the octave in the D and E flat scales. All the same requirements for the personal solo video, 3 to 5 minutes, legible PDF copy, announcing the name of the piece before you play it. For pianists, here's a specific note about actually like composing your shot basically of the video. Please position your camera at an angle so that your hands, the music rack, and or the fall board of the piano are visible at all times. Do want to point a couple other things out for pianists. Here are your scales. There is a note about tempo and timing here, so make sure you're reviewing that. In a minimum of 2 octaves, but if possible 4 octaves would be preferred, and make sure you're playing them with both hands together. For the personal solo video, you all do have a little bit of a change from the instrumentation that we went through before. The biggest thing is that you must play your solo from memory. So that is in the preliminary round as well as I believe the final round is the same. We'll verify that down below, but make sure you're playing your solo from memory. And again, announce your name and your piece before you play it. So that's for piano. And percussion, this is where we're also going to spend just a little extra minute talking about percussion. Percussion must apply, you must submit materials for 2 instruments. So you have to submit materials for a keyboard instrument like marimba, xylophone, vibraphone, and then you also have to submit for a non-keyboard instrument. That's snare drum, timpani, multiple percussion, drum set. And you have to submit both a scales or rudiments video and a personal solo video for both your keyboard and non-keyboard instrument. There is a breakdown for the scales videos. They tell you what scales to play, making sure that you're taking note of the timing and that it's a minimum of 2 octaves. And then for your rudiments or drum set style videos for your non-keyboard instrument, you will want to choose the appropriate guidelines for the instrument that you are submitting on. So the rudiments for snare drum and multiple percussion are different than those from timpani, or different from those for drum set. So make sure that you are reviewing what they are wanting you to include in your video so that you include all of that correctly. For the personal solo videos, again, you will do 1 for your keyboard instrument, 1 for your non-keyboard instrument, 3 to 5 minutes each. Make sure you are uploading that legible PDF copy and announcing your name in each piece before you play it by stating both the composer and title. So Rich, now that we've kind of given just a general overview of each instrument family, any, overarching notes or specific notes about the preliminary round art form materials?
Sure. Just to reiterate, do make sure that those copies are legible. We need to see the music. We don't have everything memorized. We are very familiar with most of the music that is auditioned on, but we still need to see the music very clearly in that PDF form. And then the other thing was just for clarification, while percussionists need to they have to audition on 2 different instruments, that does not count as 2 auditions. So
Yes.
some people
Yeah.
think, because before you said if you did trumpet and French horn, that's your 2, and you can't do anything else like musical theater. So that's your 2. But if you do drum set and marimba, you have to do those 2, but that only counts as 1 audition. So now you can still
Mhm.
audition also on trumpet if you want, or you can audition instead of another instrumental thing, you can do audition on visual art. So
Mhm.
just kind of point that out, that while you're required to play 2 different instruments of those types that are listed on there, that only counts as 1 submission,
One application.
1 application. Yeah.
Yep.
And the other thing is, um, there's all the criteria that you want to follow for playing the scales, as far as up and down memory and all that kind of stuff. The tempo 120 is the minimum tempo. You are allowed to play faster, as it says there, but it has to be all that has to be the same. But the most important thing is that you play your scales in time. They have to be played obviously accurately, meaning playing the right notes, but they do have to be played in time, not just around 120, and then sometimes it's fast and slows down and that type of thing. If you play out of time, that shows that you can't play in time. And that's very, very critical for chamber music because it is not conducted. It is coached, but it is not conducted, which means like in band, if you have weaker time or something like that, you can follow the conductor and they're conducting and kind of keep in place. But you don't have that when you're playing chamber music, and your performances are all done without a conductor. So it is very critical that you play these scales in time. Again, practice them with the metronome so you can play them exactly metronomically in time, obviously with good tone and with good musicality, but they need to be played in time. And while you're practicing the metronome, then start, separating yourself from the metronome and recording yourself and see what it sounds like when you do it without a metronome. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's part of that putting your best foot forward, making sure that it's in time, that it is, clear with good tone, making sure that you're showcasing the best of your abilities to the adjudicators in this initial application. Alrighty, so that's the preliminary round. You'll submit that no later than January 12th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, 10:59 p.m. Central. If you are selected to move on to the final round, so generally we get about 1,200 to 1,300 applications for the whole year. That is for the entire GSA program, not necessarily just for instrumental music. However, we usually invite between 800 and 850 students to be part of those final round. Auditions. So for instrumental music specifically, all applicants will be notified on February 14th of whether they've been invited to the final round. Just a reminder again, the final round application or final round audition for instrumental music will be in person at the University of Kentucky. There was some confusion about this in years past. There is no virtual option for the in-person auditions. So make plans to be there either on the 21st or 22nd. If you have scheduling concerns, then we'll talk about that after the finalist announcement. But make sure that you are planning to come to the University of Kentucky in Lexington on the 21st or 22nd. So the final round for instrumental music is going to include again, a couple of different components. A pre-review questionnaire that will be due via the accepted application portal. So you'll log back into where you submitted your initial application. You'll have access to a new portion of the application that asks you some further questions. Again, these are not a quiz. It's not scored. It's just another way for the adjudicators to continue to get to know you as an artist, as a person, as someone who is wanting to join this program. And then you'll also have a prepared ensemble excerpt on your chosen audition instruments, which we'll learn more about here in just a second, as well as the personal solo. There will be some sight reading and an interview. So we're going to go through all these other four elements of the final round now. So for woodwinds and brass, this is actually for all of the instrument families. You will play a prepared ensemble excerpt that will be provided to you after the final round announcement on February the 14th. You are welcome to bring your own copy of the piece, but one will also be provided at the audition. You will play the excerpt alone, not as part of an ensemble. It's selected by the adjudicators. It's about 1 minute in duration. We ask that you do not memorize this piece. You'll be asked to play it from the sheet music, and you may be interrupted by the adjudicators at any time. So they might start, stop, ask you to move to a different section of the piece as needed. You will play your personal solo. Applicants must furnish the adjudicators with an original copy, even if it's an original composition. You're also permitted to furnish a duplicate of the music if it is in the public domain. So, for example, if it's free music printed from the IMSLP website. You can use a duplicated copy for yourself at audition time. No accompaniment, live recorded or electronic, is allowed, just like in the preliminary round. This personal solo piece is selected by the student. It can be the same piece that you submitted in the preliminary round, or it could be different. If you want to choose a different one, you are welcome to do so. You do not need to memorize it, at least for woodwinds and brass. We'll double check the rest of the instrument families. I do think piano needs to be memorized, but we'll verify that below. It'll still total 3 to 5 minutes, just like the preliminary round personal solo, and it can, again, be interrupted at any time by the adjudicators. So, Rich, do you have anything to add about the prepared ensemble excerpt or the personal solo before we talk about sight reading and the interview?
Yes, I want to mention that even though it doesn't say this here, the prepared ensemble excerpt is just as important as the personal solo. So sometimes people look at that and they think, well, it's only 1 minute and we've only had 3 weeks or so to look at that, as opposed to the 3 to 5 minute solo that I've picked and I've done for months and months and months. So it seems like that would be the more important one. But it is just as important because that is the ensemble excerpt that we pick, that we typically, one of the pieces that we might play in that summer you're attending or previous summers, lets us know, will you be a good fit for somebody who can do that type of chamber music? Because I know you solo, you're going to be practicing really, really hard on, and you spend a lot of time on it. But and that tells a part of the story too. But the other one tells another big part of the story. So, and since it's a very big part of the story, that's why I'm saying it's just as important. So, people in the past, students in the past, have not spent much time on that. Just kind of looked at it very, very briefly, almost as if they're like sight reading or something. And that's a mistake. So you want to make sure you prepare that as well as you possibly can in the time that you're given, because it is as an important a part of the audition as the personal solo. As far as the personal solo, just really quickly, you can play the same piece or you can play something different. People ask, is there a better strategy involved? Is it more advantageous to play something different or play the same? And it really depends on what you've chosen and how you play it. So I can't really answer yes or no to that, but I'll tell you this. If you play the same piece of music that you did earlier on your tape, we should hopefully hear something different and more mature and advanced on it. If it sounds exactly the same, that's probably telling. And then if you play something different, that's fine too, but just make sure it's something, again, when you look at the criteria and everything for it, something that, again, shows off your best strengths. You don't want to find something that shows off your weaknesses. It seemed like that would be a no-brainer, but sometimes students are advised by well-meaning teachers or whatever like that and say, this is a great piece. This will impress the judges. It's a hard college level piece of music. And if you don't play it well, it will not impress the judges. It will actually work against you. So just because you're playing a hard piece, you get no points for bravery. You only get points. You only get submitted to the program for playing really well what you can do. And a lot of people have got in playing not very difficult pieces, but they play it really, really well. They're playing musically, it's in tune, it's in time, it's just expressive. And so playing something that's flashy and something that's above your level and not playing it well is not a good strategy.
That's great advice. Great advice. Alrighty. Also within that, your final round kind of time slot. So these time slots are about up to 10 minutes per applicant. So you will play your prepared ensemble piece. You'll play your personal solo. You'll also do both a rhythmic sight reading and a melodic sight reading. So that will be furnished to you by the adjudicators at the time of audition. You'll have 15 seconds to practice for the rhythmic sight reading and about 30 seconds to practice for the melodic sight reading. So just be prepared for those to be, part of your audition experience. They'll also the adjudicators will conduct a brief interview with each applicant. The duration of that's kind of at the adjudicator's discretion. It's not a formal kind of separate interview. It is more like they're talking to you in the room, they're asking you questions, again, that getting to know you. How do you think about music? How do you think about art? What are your, goals, plans, and how do you fit within the program? So all finalists will receive the date and time for their audition and interview. So there is a specific date and a specific time that you'll be scheduled for, and it'll be sent through Accepted's messaging system. So, Rich, do you have anything to add about sight reading or the interview portion?
Well, sight reading, I know that's usually everybody's, nemesis. They're like, oh, I hate sight reading. And you're not the only ones, but it is part of unfortunately part of the audition process for a lot of things, a necessary evil. But we need to see how you can respond to music, and sometimes we might ask you to do a passage a second or third time. So it's fairly laid back and flexible. But the only advice I can give you is practice sight reading every day. A lot of times people just cross their fingers and hope they get good at it. But you actually should practice sight reading every day. Practice it just like it's going to be here. Like take a piece of music that is probably going to be a few bars long that you're guessing will be 30 seconds. And then look at it for 30 seconds and then go ahead and perform it. Now, let me tell you something else that's not here, I believe, is that, well, it is here, but sometimes the students actually do not believe this. You have 30 seconds to practice on the instrument. It literally means that. You can take your instrument and play sounds, play notes on the instrument. It is not like Allstate, where you can finger through it, blow air through it, but you're not allowed to make a sound. You cannot play your instrument. So when we say you can practice on your instrument, students are always in disbelief. They're like, really? I can play my instrument? I'm like, yes, you can play your instrument. So that's very different. So practice doing that. Practice taking 30 seconds of something that you think is about the right length. And every day, do one or two of those. It's only going to cost you a couple minutes of your time. And that's how you can practice, as opposed to crossing your fingers and hoping you'll be good at it one day. Okay. So, and then the interview, that's not necessarily you want to practice doing that, but I would come in knowing everything about yourself as far as what you've done in your art field, what you like, what excites you about your art form, and that type of thing. You kind of think about the kinds of questions that we might ask, but really, it's just really just a way to get to know you. It's very laid back. We like to joke and kid, stuff like that. It's not stressful, but we just want to find out really what you're like. And so it's face to face, as opposed to, again, Allstate or anything where they're not allowed to see you. We want to get to know you, your personality, and how you will fit into the program.
Awesome. All great points. Alrighty, so this was specifically for woodwinds and brass, but for the final round, a lot of it, most of it stays consistent across the instrumentation. Strings and guitar, all of it is the same. Even the personal solo needing not be memorized. Sight reading, all the same. Interview the same. For piano, there is a slight difference here. So again, you'll play that prepared ensemble excerpt just like everybody else will. For your personal solo, just like for the preliminary round, it must be memorized. So again, you can choose the same piece or a different piece from what you submitted for preliminary round, but if you choose something different, then you are going to be memorizing another piece for this process. So your call on what you want to do, that is your decision as the applicant, but your solos must be memorized for both the preliminary and the final round application for piano specifically. Sight reading is the same, interview is the same. For percussion, this is an important note because there's been some confusion about this in the past. Applicants who are invited to the final round for percussion must audition on the same two instruments that they chose for the preliminary round. So if you auditioned on xylophone and drum set, you are auditioning in the final round for xylophone and drum set. Same for any other combination of keyboard and non-keyboard. So you do have to stay on the same instruments as you did for the preliminary round. These auditions are a little bit longer just because you are playing two different instruments. They got to hear a little bit more from you. Let's see. This is all about setup, which is just logistical things that you can look at once you learn that you're finalist in February. The prepared ensemble excerpt will be the same. You will be provided two, one for your non-keyboard and one for your keyboard instrument. Your personal solo, again, one for your keyboard, one for your non-keyboard instrument. Let's see. This one, Okay, so this one, it says these pieces should be used while auditioning. So Rich, I'm assuming that means that they would prefer that percussionists not memorize their pieces, that they play them from the sheet music. Is that what, do you know if that's what that note means?
The second bullet you're talking about?
That third one, these pieces should be used while auditioning.
I believe so.
Okay,
If
okay,
so,
cool. Cool,
but
cool, cool.
we can always clarify.
That's usually where that need not be memorized note is. So I just wanted to double check.
Right.
Perfect. Sight reading, all the same. And then interview is the same. So just some special notes for percussionists. You must furnish your own instruments, except for timpani or keyboard percussion instrument, which may be provided only if the applicant notifies us at least 2 weeks prior to the audition. UK is usually generous enough to allow us to use some of those, but you do need to notify us. You may choose to bring your own keyboard instrument if you desire to the final round. There's some specifics about the marimba if you are going to be using the one provided at the audition site. And then percussionists are expected to bring their own sticks and mallets corresponding to their audition instruments, including sticks for drum set if applicable. All percussionists are asked to bring sticks appropriate for snare drum. So just note that in your final round audition plans if you are a percussionist who is invited to final round. Uh, Rich, anything else to add for percussion, pianists, any special notes for different instrument families?
Yeah, I know this probably would go without say, but it is important that every student read carefully and thoroughly all the notes, all the criteria for the audition.
Mhm.
This audition whole applicant guideline was written by the faculty who are not only adjudicating you, who will be teaching you at the site. That's a lot of times it's different. You get a lot of hands in these things, and somebody said, well, that was written by something else, and we don't really need that. So I, myself, and my colleagues took the time to write all these words and edit them. Every year we go through and edit them. So we actually mean everything we say in this document, and we expect the students to follow everything that's here. So we wrote them. We're judging you, or I should say adjudicating you, not judging. Judging is bad. We're adjudicating
Yeah,
you. We're
it's all
selecting.
right.
And we are teaching you. So this is all very, very hands-on, which is a good thing because there's a lot of personal involvement on it, and we take a lot of pride in this type of thing.
Mhm.
However, on the flip side, you are held accountable to this. So we expect you to read it and follow these directions. And if you don't read it and kind of just go through and it's like, well, I know it's like a typical audition. I've done lots of auditions all my life and blah, 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 like that. You might be missing something very, very important and also might be missing an opportunity to be a part of GSA because you neglected a very important part that we need.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. We we love these applicant guides because they're so helpful for the applicants, but we don't make them for fun. We make them for you to read and have that guide those guidelines. Those are really great points, Rich. And there's also an element of, like, can this person follow directions when you're looking at an application? So
That
very
is so
important.
true. That is so,
Yeah.
we say,
Like, is it,
oh, if they can't follow directions here, how are they going to follow directions at the program? So it's
yeah.
an important thing.
Sometimes it's as simple as, did you submit what you were supposed to submit as laid out right here in writing for you?
Right.
So awesome. Alrighty, so we've also listed some criteria. These are just general kind of points that the adjudicators are going to be using when evaluating your application. So they'll look at your rhythm, your tempo, your evenness, your technical accuracy, your musicality, tone, or intonation. And then, kind of two larger, they'll look a little bit at your dedication to your art form, your growth, your community. A lot of that information will come from like your personal essay, your personal videos. And then for the final round only, they will also again adjudicate that rhythmic and melodic sight reading proficiency. So these kind of are formatted to talk about what an ideal applicant would look like in terms of these criteria. So Rich, do you have any kind of larger points about the criteria, or one that you feel weighs quite heavily?
No, I wouldn't say anything larger or anything overriding on this. This is
Cool.
pretty much summary, right? Just read this as is because people want to know how am I judged. And so these are the areas. They're
Mhm.
not weighted. We don't have a percentage or anything on this type of thing, and they're not intention. That's intentional. But you do
Mhm.
know these are not foreign to any student, other than maybe an essay talking about their dedication to art form. But all these other
Yeah.
things are something they're very used to and expecting. And so just read those carefully, but they're already knowing what we're listening for on this.
Yep. Perfect. Alrighty, and then lastly, we do have a tip section. The one for instrumental music is pretty robust, so make sure you're checking this out. There are tips for selecting your music, kind of a little bit what Rich talked about earlier about making sure that the piece you're playing is appropriate for your skill level now, and that you're showcasing the best parts of your playing and your musicality. Tips for recording your application videos. There's also some preparation tips for the final round, including like, what should I wear? What's the vibe? Some preparation tips, making sure you're coming early, bringing a good quality original copy, things like that. The tips are continued on this page. This page of tips is also there are some more general ones, but again, Rich mentioned practicing sight reading daily, playing confidently at all times. If you make a mistake, ignore it, keep playing. Isolated mistakes, I think this is a really important point. Isolated mistakes do not automatically disqualify you from being accepted into the program. If you don't play it perfectly, you're not automatically out. We're not going to ball up your application and throw it in the trash. Make sure you're paying close attention to the adjudication criteria. And I really love this one. Relax and enjoy yourself. The adjudicators want you to do well. They've all been through a lot of auditions themselves. They've experienced being nervous before. They are excited to see your work and they want you to do well. So we want to find the best applicants possible for the program. And so it would do us no good if we weren't rooting on the applicants, right? Because we want to find the best people possible. So try to relax as much as you can throughout the process, especially in that final round. Sometimes it can be a little daunting, but know that they're rooting for you. So Rich, any tips that you want to emphasize or anything you would like to highlight here for the attendance of this webinar?
No, I think all these tips are pretty equal on there, and students often ask, what can I do to give myself that advantage other than I know I should practice hard and really prepare and stuff like that. Follow these tips because I think that will give you the edge or advantage over people who don't follow these tips. Everyone has access to
Mhm.
them, and it's at the end of all this stuff we've been talking about. And sometimes you're fatigued from reading everything on the applicant guide. But if you're really serious about getting into the program and you want to have that edge over somebody else because everyone's really, really good who auditions, follow these tips and that will give you that edge.
Mhm. Mhm. Great points. All righty. We've got a little encouragement. Hey, you've got this. And then we've got the application timeline and deadlines, which we already went through during that PowerPoint earlier, so I won't go through all of it now. And then here is the timeline. And then any help and support. So if you need technical support with the application, we recommend that you contact Accepted. So for example, you can't get into your Accepted account or, there's something glitching on the actual website, make sure you contact Accepted. And then if you have any questions about the content or the requirements of the application or the GSA application process itself, we recommend that you contact the program directly. Alrighty. So that is the instrumental music applicant guide. We do have just a few minutes for some questions. We are running a little close to time, so we'll go through a few, and then if there's any that we can't get to in the interest of time, what we'll do is we'll have you all email those to us directly. We'll make sure you get your questions answered. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to go ahead. We do already have some questions submitted. If you're ready to go, Rich. Perfect. Alrighty. So we did have a question about, so we have a student who composes and writes instrumental music and wanted to know if this was kind of the right program for them. Is there any elements of writing or composing music with the program, or is it mostly just performance and playing?
Actually, there are opportunities to do that in the theory classes, and sometimes I know the woodwinds have opportunities to actually compose music and perform it on the final day. It's that's not a guaranteed type of thing. If you're looking for a program that's going to give you regular composition lessons daily, then this is not set up to do that. But there
Mhm.
are aspects of the program that involve composition, arranging, theory related things like that, and even opportunities sometimes for certain students to maybe do that. But if that's if that's a high important criteria for you that has to be done every day, you might need to find that in another program.
Yep. Yep. Well said. Alrighty, we have somebody asking for a little bit more information about the jazz band process. So you mentioned that there is a jazz band. Are they selected from the main auditions? Do students audition specifically for jazz? How are those students kind of selected, and what is that process like?
Did it say what that student's instrument is? The
Uh,
last
it
one?
it does not.
Okay. Well, just in general, as far as the jazz band, they're typically traditional jazz instruments, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that because if someone's really into jazz, has some experience, and do not play a traditional jazz instrument, they've been often allowed to play in the ensembles as well. Sometimes they are what we call stock arrangements or just written out compositions like you're used to from jazz band, but a lot of times, and what we've been gravitating more toward is head charts or things we learn by ear, which is kind of good because if you play like an oboe or violin, and that's not typically in jazz band, and you really have a strong interest for it and some background in it, then maybe there's an opportunity for you to play, even though there's not a part written for a violin or something like that, because these are head charts, meaning essentially that we just learn things by ear, and then there's a lot of improvising as well. So it's really a lot more chamber and improv oriented than just learning another stock jazz band arrangement. And also to answer that question, you do not need to audition on that as well. You audition on the music you play. We might ask you if you got jazz experience. I remember that is one of the questions we ask everybody what their jazz experience is, just to give us an idea of what we might be looking at for when we put together our music and our ensembles for the summer. But you don't need to audition necessarily to be involved in a jazz ensemble.
Perfect. Alrighty. Let's see. We had a question about will this recorded video be posted somewhere? Yes, it will. We'll post it on our YouTube, and that will be linked on our website, www.KentuckyGSA.org. You're going to be looking for there's a web page called Application Timeline and Webinar Schedule. So that's where all of these will be posted. A question about the essay. Does it have to be any type of font or format? All of that is mentioned in the applicant guide. I will say it's not live hard, die hard, but please don't submit like a font size 4 application in like Papyrus or some weird font like that. Any kind of standard Arial Times New Roman 11 or 12 point font should be fine. I wouldn't fuss too much about the formatting, but make sure it's legible. Let's see. Oh, okay. It looks like our jazz band question, the student plays a trumpet. So just clarifying. So,
Sure.
anyways.
Thanks.
Perfect. Let's see. So we have had a couple questions about bass clarinet versus the B flat clarinet. So when you open up a Woodwinds application, it will ask you what specifically you play. The option for that says like I think it says B flat clarinet or bass clarinet and bass clarinet. So just click that clarinet option, and that and is in there to encompass both instruments. So you should be fine.
But you don't
To
have to play both instruments.
correct. That's a great point of clarification. You do not have to submit materials on both the B flat and the bass clarinet. Just choose that option when it asks for instrumentation and submit on your bass clarinet. Should not be an issue.
If you do play both, you probably should just only focus on one at the audition and just let us know that you also play the other. And maybe if you want to bring it along and we want to hear 10 seconds of it, we might, but really focus on one. Choose one of those that you feel best on.
Perfect. Let's see. Are we required to apply into art forms, or is that just optional? That's completely optional. We did have a question. Can I compose my own audition music specifically for jazz drums? This says vibes as a secondary. I'm
Yes, you
assuming
can
that might mean
compose.
vibraphone.
We can do compositions are allowed as long as there is a written thing for the judges to look at. So either you or someone else is going to have to notate that on staff paper so we can see the music in print while you're auditioning on that composed solo. So it's allowed, but we do need, I think it's also in the applicant guide there that we do need to see that.
Perfect. We've got just a few more. So this attendee, their student is, they say an advanced bluegrass style flat picker on guitar. Will there be ensembles in this style of music? Is that a style that's generally encompassed in the program?
It can be. We work anything. We don't have any limitations, and we
Hmm.
have done bluegrass type of ensembles before. We've had fiddlers come in. We've had we accommodate any kind of instrument that will fit into the program. So we've had harps play, harps being part of the program. We did not accept them, but we had a bagpipe player audition once. So,
Yeah.
and that's on us to figure out what to do with that. So
Yeah.
yes, if we've got some people that are real interested and have talent on that, we've done that as well before. And I've actually coached groups of that nature before, where it's sort of an improvised type of thing. And we had sort of a little bluegrass ensemble going. So yes.
Yeah, we had a banjo player as recently as 2023, I think. So,
Yes, we've
yeah.
had that twice earlier
Yeah.
and then that one too. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. And then we got I'll take these last three questions, and then anything else we'll go ahead and kick over to the GSA info at. So I had a student ask if it was okay if they used a furling etude.
Yes, that is fine.
Okay, perfect. I wasn't sure what that was. I figured I'd ask.
It's
Um,
somebody wrote a bunch of etudes, so yes.
okay, perfect. Okay, Furling's the composer. Cool, cool,
Yes.
cool, cool, cool. Stunning. Alrighty. So this question, would a multi-instrumentalist, so someone who plays multiple instruments, have opportunities to play more than one instrument at the program? For example, would a bassoonist who also plays saxophone be able to play saxophone in the jazz band?
Sometimes if you audition on two instruments and you're accepted on both, we will actually work that into the program if
Hmm.
you're auditioning on both. If you audition on one and get in and also play another one, you probably will not have an opportunity to play with other ensembles on that instrument, even if you're very talented and very good on it, because we've got things worked out with the people who auditioned on those instruments. You certainly can play other instruments in things like coffee house and stuff
Hmm.
like that. People are encouraged, like people who are in creative writing or drama could play their banjo or whatever like that in a coffee house. That's not part of the instrumental music program, but there are opportunities for you to do that. But if you play two different instruments and are not accepted on two, you will only be playing in ensembles on that one instrument. The only time that might be an exception is maybe in jazz band, because we might sometimes a tuba player might be able to play bass trombone, or we might need that, and we'll see what kind of level you're at. And if it's something that we need, then we might have you do that. Or maybe an upright bass player could also play, or tuba player might play upright bass or something like that. But as far as that would be just us deciding if we needed something like that. But that's not often.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, from what I understand, if you are hoping to play two instruments at the program, you are better off going ahead and applying for both instruments in the hopes that both you get accepted for both of them. That would make that a much more likely scenario.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty. If you mess up on your sight reading, are you automatically out? No,
No, you're not.
no, you're not automatically out. All good. Things happen.
Yeah.
Um, alrighty. I said three. I'm gonna include one more, and then we'll end on this other question. So somebody asked, for the 3 weeks, are we available to take a private lesson in the dorm? So like, would they be able to take a private lesson? I'm assuming you mean like with your teacher at home in the room. You are able to like take your instrument back and forth, especially if it's small, from here to the dorm, from class to the dorm. We do recommend that you rest in times that you are not in class. There is an important balance of that. But would they be able to take like a private lesson via FaceTime? Is that something that you would, recommend or generally allow?
I would definitely not recommend that, and probably be strongly discouraged, because they have activities and stuff planned for students. There's certain hours for quietness type of thing. If it's a loud instrument, maybe you might say, well, it's a soft instrument, but there's all kinds of issues that might rise from that. So it's definitely not advised. You
Yep.
should really try to focus on what GSA has to offer you. You can come right back to your teacher after it's done, but take a break from that teacher. We have lots of great faculty that can help you, adjunct faculty, and just immerse yourself in that experience at GSA, and then you can do that when you get back home.
Yep. Perfect. Alrighty. And this last question, are we allowed to have phones in the dorms? Yes, you are. It cannot go outside your dorm. This is the last question. What will this program offer me as far as my future? So I can speak to the GSA program as a whole. So one of the biggest things that GSA offers you is not only the experience in your art form, it also kind of gives you a little bit of a glimpse of what it might be like to go to college for your art form. You're living in a dorm, you're going to class, you are responsible for getting yourself to and from places. You're guided with staff, but it is a good kind of eye test sometimes. You also have to do your own laundry. And also, GSA alumni get access to a wide variety of scholarships. I believe it's nearly 30 institutions now, at different colleges and universities. And a lot of those can help you, achieve that goal if your goal is to continue studying your instrument in college. So, Rich, do you have any like big overarching kind of chats or points about maybe how the instrumental music uh, program is structured and how that might affect the future of the students?
Well, just a real quick summary is that there's lots of opportunities that would help you at whatever future endeavor that you might want to have. So we can't be anything specific or concrete about that, but it
Yeah,
definitely will help.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's a great experience. So. All righty. So we are going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all so much for attending tonight. Thank you again to Dr. Rich Byrd for being here, for your wonderful input. If you have any lingering questions, please feel free to give us a call at 502-566-5192 or include them in an email to us at gsainfo at kentuckyperformingarts.org. Thank you all so much again. We can't wait to see your applications, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye.